Hey there, college sports fans. The story of last year's Clemson versus South Carolina matchup, in which the Gamecocks won in Death Valley, was the inability to tackle quarterback Lanorris Sellers once Sammy Brown came off the field. We're going to talk about several position matchups today, six in particular, plus we'll talk about quarterbacks against the entire defense. Uh, Eager to get through this, and we'll try to make this a little faster paced episode than we usually have. We'll see how it goes. We'd like to talk. I'm Bill Zimmerman. This is the Reign Supreme All-Way Podcast, Season 4 and Installment 2 of a preview of this 2025 Clemson-South Carolina battle.
I'm Daniel Shirley. My wife says I don't do anything quickly as far as talking, so I will keep it short. I'll keep it brief. Bill, I'm glad this is not a night game. To
Hmm.
start off with, because I just would hate to sit around all day waiting for this game to get started. You want to watch this game. You want to see how the Tigers look. I think especially on defense. I think offense has come around a little bit since the start of the season, but I want to see what this defense looks like. And, again, it goes back to tackling, it goes back to linebacker fits, it goes back to the safeties, all that stuff. And I know people have said they've played better the last 3 weeks. As we said the other day, is that more about the opponent, or is that the Clemson defense is actually getting better? I think we'll find out some Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, and I think that's the real variable as you and I have looked at these matchups and kind of figured out what we want to say about them. But Clemson's level of competition when the Tigers have been successful and won games quite different than what South Carolina has faced, and I think that's for a variety of reasons. The SEC is very strong this year, in particular. I think more so than usual. It seems to me, the Gamecocks haven't exactly had an easy SEC draw. I mean, they haven't had that Virginia ACC schedule draw where they didn't face Miami, didn't face SMU. So
Right.
when we look at these position by position, that's certainly the variable to look at is we've seen capabilities on both sides, but how are they going to take each other on? And so one of the keys, we'll jump right into it, the Clemson defensive line against that South Carolina offensive line. The Gamecocks have struggled up front a little bit with the blocking. So the Clemson defensive line, when the Gamecocks have the ball, really needs to be able to shed blocks. They need to be aggressive and be playmakers. Once those blocks are shed, they can't get out of control with over pursuit and abandon their assignments to make that happen, however. And that's going to be tough because, all Sellers needs is a crease. He's hard to bring down, and he seemed to have pretty good vision last year as well.
Yeah, he's tough. There's no doubt about that. Bill, I mean, how many times have we done this podcast and talked about maintaining your pass rush, right? And your lane and all those things. And we saw that a little bit against Florida State where it burned them. Not as much, I think, as I was expecting going into the game, and that might have been more about Tommy Castellanos than it was the Clemson pass rush, because it did burn him a couple of times. But I think this Lanorris Sellers is a better player. The Castellanos, I think he can really burn you more than Castellanos can. So maybe more with his legs than his arm. I think Castellanos is more of a burn you in the pocket and then throw the ball down the field. If once Sellers gets running, he's going to run. And Clemson saw that the hard way, in this game last year. And that was a hard watch last year. So I think that is, we want to talk about keys to the game, and I know they'll do it on the broadcast Saturday. We're doing it right now. I mean, that's 1A, 1B for me, is keep him in the pocket. Don't let him get outside. Not even, I don't even know as much as like quarterback runs, like we're just going to run the quarterback. I don't think that is going to burn you as much as him scrambling and then getting out on the outside. So you've got to keep him in the pocket and maintain those rush lanes.
Be sure to subscribe at youtube.com/Clemson Kickoff. It's free. It's the best place to catch all our episodes, and it's the best place for you to comment with your reactions. Absolutely, and that really bleeds over into linebackers versus running backs as well. Sellers, when he scrambles, very capable of racking up yardage, much like a running back does, those linebackers have to hit those gaps, just like you talked about with the defensive line. The linebackers really have to work on taking proper pursuit angles. We did talk a little bit in our last episode that may be cleaning up some by lining them up closer to the line of scrimmage more often. We'll see how that works out, but we saw Keywan Brown and Louisville exploit those problems for numerous, I think 9 or 10 runs of 10 yards or more. And you can't have that with the South Carolina running backs. You also can't have it with Sellers.
No, you can't. I mean, that's obviously this Bill. The defense has just got to play smart, right, and play sound. Do your job.
Yeah.
That's the thing that we've seen about this defense several times, and Dabo has talked about this a lot. And I think people know, we don't have to say Dabo Sweeney. People know we're talking about when we say Dabo. Remember was it the Duke game where the safety and the cornerback both blitzed at the same time? Yeah, I think so. And then left the tight end. Nobody's guarding because somebody's not doing their job. 10 guys did their job.
Yeah.
The 11th guy didn't do his job. So do your job. Pay attention to the play call. Pay attention to, in practice. Pay attention in film study. Pay attention. That's the key. Be smart, do your job. I think they'll be okay because when have we seen teams burn this defense? For the most part, it's on busts.
Yeah.
The big bad, but I mean, just the awful busts where fans like us or people like us or people watching the game are just sitting there going, what are you doing? I mean, what in the world are you doing? And those are clear. You can see those clear as day. And that's where we've seen this team get beat most of the time is on these kind of busts.
Yep. And it's also been on those gaps in the zone defense. And so I
Yep.
think the key really for that, the defensive backs group, the secondary, you can call it the back five nowadays. When you lump in the nickel, we've seen Corey and Gibson stick out really nicely as a young contributor. Don't wait for those receivers to come to you. Don't sit there in the middle of your zone and just say, "Oh,
Right.
here comes a guy and he's going to catch the ball. Look at that."
Right.
Get up and challenge him. But I also like that for the corners as well. I think Terrell and Hampton play better when they're up on a guy rather than laying back. I don't know why that is, but it just seems the results reflect that to me. And I think that we definitely want to see a more aggressive secondary. And they seem to have a better grouping right now. And they seem to have, if you're reading Tiger Illustrated, they're talking a lot about what Tom Allen Jr. is doing in that secondary meeting room, leading those meetings and keeping everybody one voice was one of the things that they talked about. A lot of detail there. You should go check it out. Good stuff. Hopefully that's going to hold up because South Carolina's got some weapons on the outside.
They do. Bill, I'll tell you who I've been. I mean, I don't know that he's played the best of anybody in the secondary. Again, I'm not X's and Oing, studying film and everything, but the guy that has really jumped out at me the last few weeks is Gibson, right? Is he's he's been perfect. He's made young guy mistakes, and we've seen that. But I'd rather see a young guy making mistakes than a guy who's been in the program 3 or 4 years still making the same mistakes. And so, you hear coaches say it all the time, make mistakes, but be aggressive. Make mistakes, but, flying at the ball, those kinds of things. And I think, we saw it the last couple of games where he's made a difference, where he's playing with more confidence, those kinds of things. And I think you're right about Terrell and Hampton. I think it feels like they are much more comfortable being aggressive and getting after guys as opposed to 8 yards off the line of scrimmage and then letting somebody run a quick out right in front of you. That drives me crazy. I don't want to sit there and watch a team just pick you apart going down the field, play after play after play.
Yeah.
Get after somebody.
Yep. You keep setting me up for the next position. We didn't plan this at all, but you talk about not wanting to see a guy in the program 3 or 4 years keep making the same mistakes. Now it's time to talk about quarterbacks, and Cade Klubnik,
Oh,
unfortunately, fits into that. Look, chose this picture to go with this. We used it as a thumbnail also after the North Carolina game. Maintain that pocket composure. He did so nicely with that against North Carolina. Did so nicely with that against Boston College. Read your progressions, find open receivers, and I do think even in the last couple of games where there hasn't been as much time with the injuries on the offensive line, there hasn't been the same protection that he had in those two games I just referenced, North Carolina and Boston College. He is looking, I think, at least at 1 and 2 before then sort of regressing into, Johnny Manziel mode. And I read somewhere that that's one of his idols. Well, Manziel,
Oh,
I don't think that's how you want to coach the game. All those deep rushes, all those deep scrambles, all those, giving up a lot of yards. In fact, Lanorris Sellers has been criticized for doing that quite a bit this year when he's been in trouble. So I'll go ahead and try to lump these together because we are trying to go quickly, but I'll skip down to wide receivers as well. Tyler Brown certainly fits into that. He is very rarely going to be option one. He's not even the lead guy in the slot, as Dabo Swinney has made clear that Antonio Williams is going to get the bulk of the snaps in the slot there. I still would love to see, and you and I talked about this weeks ago, I still would love to see Williams kick outside, starting instead of Turner or starting instead of Smith, where you've got that or designation in the first team. And then that frees up Brown to get more snaps in the slot. I don't know that that's going to happen, and that may be a comfortable thing, where if Williams is your number one option and Moore is your number two, well, then that's you don't want to get away from that strength. Cade Klubnik has to know what's going on, especially with Olsen Pat Henry out among the tight ends. It's going to be down to Josh Sapp and Christian Bentoncourt, possibly some more Logan Brooking. He had a touchdown from Chris Denson the other day.
yeah.
Chris Denson with an injury in practice has been reported, so cool your jets about that. Although if he's healthy enough, I would love to see him just get a couple change of pace snaps. It all really comes down to Klubnik. Can he keep his composure? Can he find the open man and deliver the ball on time where someone's not having to reach back for it, but at least find that open guy and deliver the ball and get those completions?
Yeah, I composure, poise, however you want to say that. I mean, Bill, we're talking about a fourth year, I mean, a senior.
Yeah.
And I mean, you go back to the Louisville game where he tries to hand the ball to the wrong person. I just, these are a lot of these things that we're talking about with him are freshman mistakes or, young guy mistakes. And those are things that a guy at his place and stature in the program just should not be doing. And look, I mean, he's had a good career. He's had a solid career. I don't think anybody could say he's had a great career. But he's been a solid quarterback. I mean, he hasn't been awful. All of their issues are not on him. But, this is a legacy game for him. We talk a lot about what happened last year on the defensive side and not being able to tackle Lanorris Sellers. And whenever we do that, you say, yeah, but the offense always scored 14 points. And you've done
Yep.
it every time.
Yep.
And I'm with you. They've had some games during his career where you go, where was the offense? And I mean, I go back to his very first start. They ran up and down the field against Tennessee in that bowl game and could not get the ball in the end zone because he's jittery, he's panicky, he's everything. And we have talked about that ever since he's been the starter for this team. And here we are. I mean, that's been one of the storylines of this season, right? I mean, the busts on defense and the inability to run the ball, I think, is another one. But his play, he's gotten better. But Bill, he still looks like a sophomore.
Yeah.
I mean, we shouldn't be talking about, quote, he's gotten better. And I can do air quotes on a podcast. I can't do it on my radio show. We shouldn't be talking about about a senior.
Yeah.
So I mean, he did not play well last year against South Carolina. Did he play well? Has he ever played well against South Carolina? Think about that.
Mm.
The couple
Right.
times they've won down there, or the one time they won down there with him at quarterback, they didn't really do much on offense.
Right. And I think the offense in the loss in 22 put up 23 points, and defense had the other 7 accounted
Right.
for.
Right. So,
I
I
mean,
mean, and look, if they win the way they won 2 years ago, that's fine. I'm
Just get a
okay.
W. Yep.
Sign me up for that. But I mean, there wasn't much offense in that game. Dabo even said it on Tuesday. He said the last time we played down there, I don't think either team played well.
Yeah.
So
So
this is he loses this game. I mean, this is a legacy game for him, I think. I know he's won 2 ACC titles and he's MVP in those games. He went back to the playoff last year. Again, solid, good. But you lose to South Carolina your last 2 years. That dings you a little bit. I think Taj gets stinged a little bit for the way he played in this game. I do, and that's fair because
yeah.
I think Taj had a great career, except for in a couple of these big games.
Yeah. Well, and this year, I think that South Carolina secondary can be had.
I
Like, I
do
think
too.
there are chances, and especially if you look at the talent level that you have with Antonio Williams, with TJ Moore. If as
Yep.
much as Tyler Brown gets on the field, I think he's going to have a talent advantage because he's just got such energy when he gets the ball. So the question is, and that this will take us into the next thing, the offensive line. Uh,
Hmm.
can he get enough time? And can Garrett Riley dial up the plays and can Cade Klubnik run those plays? I don't think. Can Cade Klubnik run those plays? There we go. Because if they can get the ball out quickly enough, I think they can have these receivers getting a lot of yards after catch in that secondary. The question is, can Klubnik get the ball out on time where it should be and not
Right.
hold it too long
Accurately. Right.
and sometimes not in his fault, can he have the time to make those things happen?
Well, here's the thing. This is the kind of game, and we hear it all the time that Clemson plays these kinds of teams where they got the ball out so quick we didn't have time to get sacks. That's what Clemson, I think, needs to do this week.
Yeah.
If this is a short passing game, kind of a game, I'm okay with that. You know, the 7 yard slant, throw the quick out, throw the screens, all that kind of stuff. That's fine. And then maybe go deep, whatever. But I don't think this is a drop back, 7 step drop, hold it for 4 seconds kind of a game. I just don't. I think the offensive line is too banged up. That you're missing a couple of pieces there. Maybe not, starters, but you're missing some pieces there. And their defensive ends are really good.
Yeah.
They
I
might be the best 2 players on the field Saturday. So I think this is a get it out quick. You've got to find something in the running game, but find the tight end, find Betancourt, find it. Antonio Williams needs to have a huge day.
yeah.
I'm talking huge day.
Yeah.
And maybe 10 catches, whatever. I don't care what the number is. I hate setting numbers, but no, I think this is definitely a get the ball out of your hands quickly kind of a game and move the ball, short, quick passes, and then see what happens.
Connect with us on social media. That's at Clemson Kickoff. Whether you're on Twitter, Instagram, Blue Sky, or Facebook, you'll find us there. Yeah, and we talked about, getting that offensive line to put a hat on a hat rather than doing a lot of pulling, a lot of
Right.
running, a lot of scheming side to side. And I do think that lends itself not only to the quick passing game, like just hit a guy quick and let Kay get the ball out, but then we'll get into the running game for just a minute here because with this makeshift offensive line with several guys who could be in there and aren't in there, the running backs A need to protect the football and then B just find some daylight, find some creases, follow your blockers, know where they're heading and start to pick up where the matchups might be a little more favorable and hit those spots again and again. Regardless of the formation you're in, regardless of what play is being called, try to hit those spots wherever you can and definitely run the play that's called. But when things might break down, hey, what's my first thought? Hey, we're having success, behind number X, and let me see if I can go follow him since the first thing that's there doesn't seem to be working. I think Adam Randall and Gideon Davidson, again, if they can get through that line, they can also kind of exploit that back end of
Yeah.
the South Carolina defense for some yardage a little bit. And sometimes when they bust through, you're seeing them get 7, 8, 10 yards, that sort of Wayne Gallman effect that I used to love so much
Yep.
because it moved the chains, moved the chains, moved the chains. But maybe some of those start to bust for 15, 20 yards, like Louisville was doing in Clemson.
Well, and if you do that, you know what you're also doing? You're keeping Sellers off the field,
Yeah.
right? I mean, keep the ball, move the ball. I mean, go back to the old Chad Morris way of moving the ball. I mean, they hit big plays, but it was also get a first down, get a first down, get a first down, get some rhythm, those kinds of things. I think that's huge. I
Yeah.
absolutely. Not only does that help the offense, but it helps the defense stay off the field and not have to defend him for 60 plays, 70 plays. You know, I'm okay with that. Again, if you want to win this game 13-10, win it 13-10. I don't, I'm not worried about style points. I'm not worried about any of that kind of stuff that we talk about a lot with the team and looking good and all that. Just want a sloppy, whatever, however ugly, whatever. I don't care. Just win the game. And, you know, again, I don't want to put it all on Cade because, you know, then we start seeing receivers drop passes and all that. But it's got to start with him, like you said, and they've got to find a rhythm on offense. And I think you're right. I think that flow and that rhythm and all those kinds of things are huge on Saturday.
Yeah.
You know, and we'll see if he could do it. I just can't believe we're talking about a guy as a quarterback who's been here 4 years and we're still talking about these kinds of things. But it's absolutely appropriate the way that we are.
Well, fortunately, we have solved all of it in this episode, and
Yes, we have. I hope he's watching.
nobody show this to South Carolina. Obviously, they are not allowed to see this. This is going to be
Don't show it to Georgia either, our Georgia fan who might want to interrupt just as well. So,
oh man, that's going to be an interesting game. I think Georgia Tech. I think
yeah,
I know you've been big on the Yellow Jackets, but I think they have a rude awakening in store.
I was
Something tells
wrong.
me.
I was wrong.
Well, I don't think
I
you were
was
wrong by much, though.
I was right-ish, and I was wrong-ish about them.
Yeah.
I think that's going to get ugly Friday afternoon.
Yeah, well, we'll find out about that before we find out about Clemson, South Carolina. And
Yes.
I do have to keep this a short episode. I got a hard stop coming up soon, but I hope this has been enjoyable for everybody. Kind of a second look. Maybe you're full of turkey by the time you're watching this. Maybe you're eating turkey leftovers and watching the Egg Bowl or Georgia Tech while you're watching this. But hope you are enjoying it, and it's going to be a good way to set up for that noon kickoff Saturday down at that school down I-26. So we will come back after that game at some point, hopefully Sunday night. That's always my plan A. We'll see if we can make it work and talk about how the Tigers regular season concluded against the Gamecocks in that rivalry, which the name I will not mention because Daniel doesn't like it. It's a new marketing thing, but Ryan,
Contrived. It's contrived. It's okay. I mean, it's contrived.
it might stick. I mean, I was hoping the woohoo would go away, and it's hung around. So I'm going to warn you, you might be hearing this for a long time. So
I may come around to Palmetto Bowl. We'll see if I do. Hey, if they win, I'll call it whatever they want to call it, as long as
oh
they
wow,
win.
there you go, there you go. And I guess we'll be talking hopefully about a bowl bid shortly
Yep.
as well, and then signing day right around the corner.
That's right.
So
That's
a
right.
lot coming up. Hey, until our next episode, I'm Bill Zimmerman.
I'm Daniel Shirley. Go Tigers.